mini introduction.
Okay.
So good afternoon. I am Jenny Wise here from WiseMind Yoga Science and Soul and Soul Yoga Boss. And I am super excited and so grateful for one of our ladies that's in our mastermind right now, who is a former studio owner from Inspired Change Yoga. And she's going to tell us later on about some of her programs that she's working on right now. But I want you to go ahead and officially introduce yourself, Miss Carrie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Carrie Myers, and I'm from Asheville, North Carolina. And I have owned Inspired Change Yoga for about 5 years, and we just closed our doors at the end of November because of COVID. But it has been a wonderful journey, and I've been very blessed to have the people, teachers and students that have been in this studio for so long.
Right. And it's been a beautiful opportunity for you to kind of practice yoga, off the mat as far as letting go, right? And going with the flow and, acceptance and change and all the things that we talked about that I experienced last year. And that's kind of one of the ways you and I were able to connect, is the fact that we've gone through part of our journeys have been similar, if that makes sense. So I can really connect with how you're feeling right now, if that makes sense, but that you're in that process of rebirthing and creating something else, right? You're actually in a rebirth process, if that makes any sense.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, I recently realized that on January 1st, 2020, that I set an intention about letting go. And boy, did I not know what I was in for when it came to that. So letting go of the studio and letting go of expectations, letting go of people pleasing, that has been a huge thing. As Jenny knows, that is one of my biggest challenges as a person.
Yeah.
So, yes.
And it's interesting too, because I'll share a little bit. My intention word for last year was alignment. And I definitely feel like, similar to you, that whatever circumstances you want to, however you want to describe it, of the circumstances, but it still got me to the end point of getting aligned, if that makes sense. So that's why, again, everything happens in its perfect timing of, you and I talked about this, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right? And so it's just really fascinating I just love like standing back and watching people's journeys and just watching how people transition and heal and grow and change. And it's just so fascinating. And I saw that your word for this year is abundance.
Yes.
And that's mine as well. So we're definitely going to have to talk about that.
More alignment.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, I think about the 3 pillars, right? There's the alignment and setting the sankalpa and all the things we talk about in the business of yoga. And then there's kind of the, I guess, attunement or alignment, in addition to that. And then there's the taking action part. And then there's the abundance. That's kind of like the 3 A's that I kind of think about it as, is that alignment, attunement up front of doing all the shadow work and the transformation and the sankalpa and who's my client avatar and all those things, all that upfront work that you do, so that it's aligned with the abundant, the action and then the abundance, if that makes sense. And all the things have to be happening to go to the abundance, right? Because we can't pray and meditate and do yoga all day and not take action, right? There's multiple pillars to that. We can't just manifest and think the thoughts and then it's going to happen, right? You have to actually execute and take the action. So I think there's a lot of teachers out there and a lot of people around manifestation that struggle with that, if that makes sense. That they're like, well, I thought about it and I'm visualizing it, and it's going to just show up,
Just show up. Yeah.
And of course, that's part of it, right? That's a step in the process.
Yeah, I think that has to be the first step.
Yeah.
being, saying what you want, knowing what you want,
Right. Because you have
and
to
then being
call it in.
open to it.
Exactly. You have to call it in, right? You have
Right.
to bring it in and let the universe know that this is your intention. And then
Right.
the God or universe, whatever you want to call that, then starts bringing the people and the circumstances and the discernment and the intuition and the creativity and all the things, right? So that
Right.
you can then execute it, right?
Right.
So that gives me goosebumps. Tell us a little bit about so far what your experience has been in the mastermind, in the group, and then also a little bit as far as us working one-on-one and what that's been like, just for people that, aren't familiar with the mastermind. They're not familiar with me. They're not familiar with even like one-on-one coaching when it comes to shadow work or, yoga business coaching, or just maybe kind of share your experience with that.
Okay. Well, in the mastermind, like all of Jenny's journeys have been very similar to mine, in struggling with just past traumas or just past self-doubt. And so when she reached out to me about being part of the mastermind, I was like, okay, like, again, universe, I'm listening, and like, you're putting Jenny in my life for a reason. And it has been very freeing, and it's been one thing that's actually helped me decide to close the studio, because a lot of things that I was holding on to were people, and I was holding on really, really tight to people and everybody's expectations, and and knowing that financially we're dying, and just letting go of people pleasing. And so along with the mastermind and Jenny's help with our one-on-one, just finding clarity around what I really want and what I've defined as my soul's next purpose. And just taking it from there, and things are showing up for me. So just having that, the skills, and I think a lot of us, we have the skills, we just have to be reminded and do the work, instead of just like Jenny said, it's just thinking about it and hoping it'll just all fall around us like glitter, right?
Right. Yeah, and I love, some of the things you talked about with the acceptance and changing the samskara patterns, like people pleasing, or I think for both of us, perfectionism is another big one. So that as you start to transform and shift, and I like to call it detox and heal those patterns, then you create space for patterns that you actually can use for your soul's purpose, right? Because
Right.
you've let go of those things that are taking up so much of your energy and your creativity. And, it takes a lot of energy to be in that place of perfectionism, right? So you've heard me say this, I'm going to say it again, that, imperfect action is better than perfect procrastination.
Yes. Yes.
And
one's stuck.
Yeah, and believe me, I'm raising my hand because there's many, many times, right, that I've been in that perfect procrastination mode, right? Where rather than me taking imperfect action, I was holding back because it wasn't, quote, perfect enough, right?
Right.
So when you start to, and again, I'm getting goosebumps here, when you start to let go of those things, right, like the inner critic voice, like the taskmaster and the perfectionist and the people pleaser or a workaholic, or whatever those patterns are for you, then, like, to your point, things open up. And then as you start to also let things go that are no longer part of your soul's purpose, right? So that journey that you had owning the yoga studio for 5 years, is nothing of that will be wasted, right? That's just equipping you for what you're about to do now.
Right.
And so just that whole process of, letting go, that's that huge energetic shift of something that you took so much time and energy and love and sweat and tears and everything that you poured into that studio, which was absolutely amazing, to give yourself like that. But to know that, you had the courage and you listen to your intuition and, you know, your prayer, your meditation, and all the things that you did to then step into, okay, it's time to let this go.
Right.
And to be okay with that, to, you know, to let it, to accept it and to let it go, if that makes sense, as hard as it was, right? Because then again, I know, and I'm sure you're still a little bit in the grieving process, right? So
Yes.
I get that. And I just want to say kudos to you that, you know, you took that, you were brave enough to let it go, because it's not easy to let something like that go that you've had for 5 years. That's not an easy thing to do. I mean, I know it wasn't easy for me, and I had mine for 3 years. So, you know, so kudos to you that you listened to your intuition and you've now opened up that space in yourself. Not to mention the time and energy it's going to open up for you to now be able to focus on these other things that you're doing, that you're about to get into.
And I think the biggest benefit for me is that, you know, working with you, Jenny, it let me process a lot of stuff prior to making the decision to close. Mm-hmm. So I don't feel like there's going to be as much grief on the back end, because mm-hmm. I feel like I've worked through a lot of that prior to making that decision.
Right.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
No, it makes total sense. And believe me, I'm so grateful that I could be here for you with the timing and everything that was happening.
It was perfect timing.
Yeah, definitely divine intervention. Because I can tell you, I wish I had that last year when I did, you know. Right. I found other sources and resources and, you know, ways, my teacher and different things like that was kind of my way that I got through that. But I am so grateful that I could be here to help you with that, because I know it's not a difficult, you know, it's a difficult process to go through for anyone. And I remember like talking to my teacher last January, and it was only a few months in, because it was December 1st that it was official. And right around this time last year. And I remember her saying, like, get ready, because this is going to be a rebirth. Like, you're going to rebirth something completely different. And you don't need to know exactly what that looks like right now, right? You need to know 1 or 2 steps ahead, right? You don't need to know everything. Like the things I'm doing now, I didn't know I was going to be doing back in December of last year, or what this is going to look like.
Right.
So that's another important part too, for you and for anybody else out there who's like, I don't know my soul's purpose. I don't know my dharma. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I'm feeling completely overwhelmed. The first step is to do the Sankalpa work and to set the intention and to do the release of things that aren't serving you, and to do the meditation and your yoga practice and creating a sadhana practice and all those things. So that, again, it's going to get your intuition going. It's going to release the things not serving you, so that you can then have the quiet of the mind, right? You can have the stillness of the mind, so that you can actually hear what is that spiritual GPS or download that you're supposed to be getting, to say, okay, this is the next step. This is the direction that you're going to go.
Yeah. And that's another thing that,
you go ahead. It was Chair.
That's another thing that Jenny's helped me do, is to establish a more steady, I guess is the right word, meditation practice, so I can be a little more open to all the possibilities. And the past few days have been kind of crazy, trying to pack the studio up, so I haven't taken the time to meditate like I had been. But I know that that's one thing that is going to take priority when we finally get everything out of the studio and I can calm myself. And
you can shut the door. Believe me, I went through that. I remember going through all that too. Like that. And everything out, the bolsters, the blankets, you don't realize how much stuff you have. Like I remember I had an entire closet of stuff, you know, like a refrigerator, because we did lavender towels, and the towels, lavender towels, and like all the things, the money box, like all the little things that add up when you're, you know, when you're getting rid of everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm really big on decorating per season. So, you know, I had a little Valentine's things and Easter things, and I'm like, where did all this stuff come from? And so many people have offered to help me pack up, and I'm like, this is something I really need to do because it's going to help me process. And I'm going to put it all in storage and see what happens. But it's just a process. But I look forward to being done with the space now that it's done. Like I'm one of the people like, okay, that's the end.
Right.
Let's move on to the next thing. So that's kind of where I am right now. But I look forward to being done with it so I can get back into my meditation practice and really, have a plan every day to practice and then move forward with whatever else is happening.
Yeah. So were you able to get into the 21-day stress survival kit at all yet?
I am on like day 13 or 14 of that.
Okay. So
I kind of like let it slide for like a week now.
That's okay. How is that going for you, the 21-day kit?
It's really good because, I think we all kind of get settled in our ujjayi breath or whichever breath that we're always so used to using, and the reminders. There are different yogic breaths, and to take the time to stop and notice how that feels in our bodies. And just having that, regardless of what else is going on, this 15 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 minutes is my time to sit here and be guided in a meditation, because, I can be one to be like, okay, that was 2 minutes. I'm off to the next thing,
Right.
As soon as that thought pops in your head of the should-haves or the to-do lists. But, 15 minutes goes by really quickly. And somebody's guiding you to breathe, And then that also reminds you that you have time to meditate.
Yeah.
So it's been a very good thing for me.
Yeah, you've heard me say that. You're going to hear me again. 1,440 minutes in a day. You can find 5 minutes to meditate.
Right.
Somebody says I'm too busy to meditate. Because guess what? The ROI on that is priceless. Okay, it's beyond. You can't even put a number on it. Taking 5 to 15 minutes every day.
Right. And if I don't get time to log in to the 21-day, I have an app on my phone. I can't remember what the name of it is right now, but it has like a guided, you can do guided or not guided. And sometimes I actually just sit in the bathtub and meditate, because that's kind of like a quiet space, and put that on and, remind myself, here's your time.
Yeah. And the self-care, especially right now for you, is so important to give yourself that extra, being gentle with yourself and giving yourself extra self-compassion and extra self-care as you're going through this process, and that it's okay to be more gentle with yourself.
Absolutely.
Right
now. Yes. Yeah. And don't tell anybody, but I've been sleeping in a little bit too.
Tell us, as far as with the mastermind, has it helped you from an accountability perspective, as far as having like that one-on-one once a week that we do, that hour a week? Has that helped you as far as supporting you?
Yes. It's always a good thing to, come into a group where you know that you're expected to be there. And, of course, the lessons are invaluable that you talked about. And knowing that other people are going through the same thing is always just phenomenal. Because when you're going through a rough time, you always just assume that you're alone. And you have to get through it alone, but we're not. So that is still an accountability thing, and a time to slow down and listen and learn. There's just always so much more to learn.
Yeah. Well, that's, this. I mean, any good yoga teacher, any good teacher is a lifelong student, right? You're always learning, you're always changing, you're always evolving and learning to teach from transmission, right? Learning to teach from your own life experiences and knowing that you can only take others through something that you've gone through yourself. In other words, if you've not gone through that transformation yourself, you can't take somebody else through that, right? So part of all these things that you're doing right now are equipping you for other things and other ways that you're going to help other people.
Yes.
Right. You're not there yet because you're still in the processing part of it, right? But as you get further away from that processing part and healing part, that's going to help you help other people with whatever comes out of this, right?
Right. Yeah. It's also helped me to kind of wake up the past and know like how I can use some of my past trials to help people in the future, which is part of the reason that I've decided to do the teen program. And just to help people.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Just to help people, like realize like why am I like I am, and what I've been through taught me and changed me, and how can I, help somebody else work through things. The one thing that I've always said is you don't get over stuff. You have to get through stuff. And when we go through stuff and actually heal through a process, then, it makes us stronger, and it makes us a good shoulder to lean on for the next person that is experiencing the same thing.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Do you want to take a couple minutes to kind of share about your self program and some of the other things that you're doing now? Can you share what your rebirth process has been?
I have a master's in social work, and I worked in the elementary schools prior to my kids being born, which has been a few years. My oldest is almost 21, but it's always been in the back of my mind that especially in like middle schoolers, is such a pivotal time in girls' lives, especially everybody's life, of course, but especially girls' lives, because their bodies are changing and everything's changing, right? And so I was offered an opportunity right before I opened the studio to teach at middle school, to teach a yoga club. And so that has also been a little nudge toward my next soul's purpose. And fell in love with these kids. And we had a few boys come in and do some yoga. At the beginning of COVID, I kind of happened upon divine intervention, yoga for eating disorders. And it kind of helped nourish that seed of going back to the middle school age group, especially for girls. And so as I processed that knowledge, and along with what Jenny has taught, I've come up with a teenage program, and it'll probably like expand to high schoolers. But right now I want to focus on 10 to 14-year-old girls, and it's called Self. So it is spirit, empowerment, and love foundations. And kind of share the story of a pivotal time in my life, because before I turned 50, which was not so long ago, I came to the realization that of the time in my life where my life shifted, and I really began to be a people pleaser as opposed to just being myself. And so I want to really allow middle school girls to have skills to recognize when they are out of alignment with what they are meant to do or who they're meant to be. And use the yoga and meditation. Journaling is another huge piece to it, because I've journaled all my life practically, and just give them the skills to know who they are before the world gets to tell them who they think they should be. That's kind of some stuff there. More of underlying prevention, especially when it comes to eating disorders or drug abuse or even bad boyfriends, right? So they really are strong in who they are.
Right. And social social media and that part of it too.
Yes.
And how that affects girls that age.
Yes.
Because as you know, you and I talked about this a little bit, there's a lot of girls getting cell phones even as young as 10, but I would say on average 12, 13, they're getting cell phones. And so that piece of it is definitely a big component. I'm sure you'll cover a little something on social media too.
Yes.
But what is the web? Do you have a website or lead page for that?
Yeah, right now it's still under inspiredchangeyoga.com. And then this program is under events.
Okay, so it's inspiredchangeyoga.com.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
Now I'm going to say program under events. Okay.
Yes.
There.
And we're still, working on pivoting the website to reflect the closing of the studio.
Because I'm still working on pivoting mine. It's a year later, and I still have pictures of the yoga studio up. So don't feel bad. That's why we created a whole nother page for the mastermind.
Right.
Then we linked it to the website. So at some point, I've already talked to my web designer about upgrading it, and we're not upgrading, but updating it, updating pictures, like updating information. But for right now, it is what it is. So, so you can always create another page, a more elaborate page.
Yeah.
My page looks like a website in itself, the mastermind page.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on. I'm trying to do it myself because I don't have any money, but so it's a process.
Yeah.
But it is on there, and I've had a lot of interest in it. And because we are doing it virtually, it will open us up to so many more young ladies. Mm-hmm. And the first one is only $75, and it's a 6-week program, but it will go up after that.
That's amazing. So when does the pilot one start?
January 21st.
Okay, awesome.
And I'm probably going to change the time of day because right now it's 4 or 4:30 Eastern time. Mm-hmm. And I had a lady in Arizona wants her girls to do it, but they don't get out of school. Mm-hmm. I think it's a 2 or 3 hour difference in time. And so I may switch it up just to give them an opportunity to be there. So,
yeah, well, that's amazing. I'm super excited for you on that. And I know you're working on writing poems and you're a writer, and there's other things you're working on that you may do some membership, potentially online yoga with some of your former members and taking that online. So you've got a lot in the mix.
I do, and I'm excited, and I can't wait for just Christmas to be over, even though, it is 2020 Christmas, so you never know what's going to happen, right? But, and just so I can clear all that to-do list and just be able to focus on what's coming. Yeah. And focus on myself and, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's exciting. And I'm just excited of what's gonna happen in 2021,
right?
Because I just feel like we'll see. I mean, I just feel like even if it's keeping your own energetic vibration at a high vibration,
right,
and just staying in that place of execution and manifesting and alignment and abundance and all those positive things, right? Of keeping ourselves in an energetic alignment of success and abundance.
Right.
And letting go of the other things that we can't control, right? So that's kind of what I mean by 2020 has been the most biggest opportunity for us to practice all our yoga skills off the mat.
Right.
Every single one. Every yogi that's out there, if there was ever an opportunity to practice mindfulness and yoga,
letting go. Right.
Letting things go we can't control, right? We can't control elections. We can't control COVID. We can't control all these things that are happening. We can't control any of it. But we can control a reaction, and we can control one of our most valuable resources, which is our energy and our time.
Right.
With those two things we can control. We can control how we spend our time, how we take care of ourselves, what we put our energy into. We get to choose.
And I feel like that if it weren't for COVID, I would have been, head down, like making the studio work, not taking the opportunity to take the Yoga for Eating Disorders course and the Mastermind course and, all the other little web free, anything free, like I was absorbing.
Right.
And I probably would never have taken the time to do that because I would just been so busy.
Right.
Doing what was expected of me.
Right.
So.
And you and I talked about this too. I dealt with the same thing with the people pleasing for a while, that, I felt like I was letting people down. Like I was letting clients down. I was letting teachers down because I wanted to have a space for them to be able to teach, but that wasn't my responsibility, but I put that on myself. Right. So, that was, again, a huge learning point for me to be able to let go of the people pleasing. And the first, one of the biggest steps of that was actually when I let go of the studio. Right. That was a pivotal moment and me shifting that pattern. And I'm no longer making business decisions based on people pleasing.
Right.
I'm going to make a business decision based on what my soul alignment is, what my purpose is. And if I'm not feeling aligned with something, to let it go, to not try to, keep something going that is no longer aligned. Because that was the biggest piece of it was not aligned for me. That was not what I was meant to do anymore.
Right.
It had done its purpose. It had changed me, transformed me, taught me all the skills, management skills, dealing with people, all the marketing, all the things, right? The many, many, many things it taught me. But then it's like, okay, it's time. Like, I am meant to step into this next thing. And the studio was not part of that, and being okay with it.
And you probably got a lot of what I got, like, okay, just do it, switch to online, or can we just keep our eye open for a new space, or can you just do this? Can you just do that? Because we really need our yoga. And as much as I wanted to do that because I have such a phenomenal group of people as students here, just to be able to say, I'm sorry, but that's not what is meant for me. I wish you luck, and I'll support you in any way I can. But it is, it's not my place to continue doing this for you.
Right. And I've said that, if I was a multi-millionaire, and I had unlimited funds.
Right.
And I would have been more than glad to, to keep that studio going, right? If there was a way to do it that way, that there was funds coming in, and because there's a lot of studio owners, even before COVID, even without COVID, that struggled with this, right? Many, many, many yoga studio owners that you don't realize that are just barely in the green,
right?
And they're keeping it going because they believe in yoga and they believe in having a healing space for people.
Right.
And that was big, for me, it wasn't just the people pleasing. The biggest part of it is I wanted to be able to have that space for people. That was important to me, to be able to hold that space for people. But then because, I did my own healing on the mat, and I know you have too, right? So you wanted to create that for other people, the experience that you had.
Yes.
And, but then it came to the point where it was like, well, at what cost am I going to continue to hold this space for other people? Like, I can't continue to be that anymore, because not only was it affecting my health too.
Right.
It started to affect my health. And that happened for years. I held on for years with my health not doing well, right? Because I took it over in 2016, 2017, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And I still kept going for another 2+ years after that.
Right.
I got sicker and sicker and sicker. And so again, right, I even sacrificed my own health to keep that going.
Right.
Because it was important to me. And at the time, I did feel like it was aligned and part of my purpose. But I probably held on a little bit longer than I needed to, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Because I shared that with you. I started pulling back in 2019, early 2019, when we started reducing our number of classes. So I kind of slowly transitioned out, if that makes sense.
Yes.
But yeah. And when I look back at kind of where I was a year ago, it just goes to show what difference a year can make.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even looking back at where I was a year ago, yeah, I'm a totally different person.
Yeah.
And I know 2020 has hurt a lot of businesses, and there's been a lot of devastation around it. Around COVID, et cetera, et cetera. But there has been a lot of good, and not just in my life. Like I have heard people talk about coming, closer with their families, and just taking, taking the time to step back and cook more at home, and just really be present. And that has been one of the processes that has helped me too. Just having okay, so you can't go to the studio and you can't have all the stuff that you had planned. So now what are you going to do? And that gave me the opportunity to go, this is what I've been wanting to do for a long time now. Okay. I'm listening.
And it's allowed us to take a step back, right? If you listen, right, it's a unique opportunity for awakening.
Yes.
And it's a unique opportunity to step back. That, when you look at it that way, as much of a pain all this has been, it can also be a gift.
Right.
And I know it's really hard to look at it that way. COVID's a gift, but it's allowed us to slow down. It's given us things so that if we listen and if we if we invest the time and the energy and use the time wisely, amazing things can happen out of it, right? Yes. Or we can pull ourselves down and get into a spiral about all the things that we can't do, or, get people getting sick, like all these things that we can't control.
Right.
So,
yeah. It has been a blessing, in a lot of ways it has been a blessing.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I would just be chugging along, kind of on autopilot, doing and being busy.
Yeah.
And,
busy center, right?
Right. Instead of being purposeful. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can see, it's weird on there, but one thing is playing intentionally. It's hard when you're reverse, right? But, that's been on my board for several months now, instead of playing it safe,
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I want to do is I want to take a minute to do a shout out to all the studio owners across the world and across the US that are holding on right now. And again, this also gives me goosebumps. So I do want to acknowledge those studio owners right now that are putting a stake in the ground, and they're in a different place in their journey.
Absolutely.
They're meant to go through this right now, if that makes sense. So those studio owners that maybe they can't get out of their lease. I know owners that can't get out of their lease, right?
Right.
And so that is part of their journey, that they're supporting, these folks, whether they can do it in person, whether they're doing it online, whether running a yoga teacher training program, like whatever they're doing. I just want to send out love and kudos and light to all those owners out there right now that are still fighting the fight, because that's where they are in their journey.
Absolutely. And you know what the benefit to them is that, because they have put that stake in the ground, And so many other studios are closing around them that hopefully people will flock to them and make the business way more profitable. Because I mean, I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, which is like a yoga mecca of the South. And even our largest studio in the area is for sale. So you know, a lot of things have changed here. But there's those few. They're going to hold on, and then they're going to be very profitable, hopefully, when people, you know, disperse and find their other place that speaks to them.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, that's the one good thing that has happened with all this. Not good. I don't want to say good, but it has, the people that are able to hold on, you know, hopefully those people are, like you said, are going to be profitable. So I don't wish anybody shutting down. So I didn't mean like good.
Absolutely.
Just meaning like we had so many studios in this area too. And so again, I don't wish that on anybody. But it, you know, like I know that there's one bigger studio here that had been open for 13 years, one of the oldest studios. I think, you know, Blue Lotus. And I don't know, I haven't had a chance to look at everything that they're doing now, but I think they've moved a lot of stuff online. But obviously I wish success for everybody, because there's more than enough yoga for everybody, right?
That abundance.
Because everybody has their own gifts. Yeah, abundance, right. Everybody has their own unique gifts. Everybody has their own story. Everybody has their purpose, their dharma. And each person and each teacher and each studio owner is meant to help people in different ways.
Well, and I don't know if it's something you said or something I've heard recently, but just reframing it as it's not a failure, it's just a shift.
Exactly.
And just accepting that as for what it is, you know?
Right. Yeah. And like you said, you could have chosen to keep going. I could have chosen to keep going. I could have kept going.
Right.
But we both made conscious choices to not do that, because based on where we were in our journey and our next chapter of our dharma and our purpose, we could not create that and hold on to a studio. And anyone out there who's owned a studio knows how much goes into it from an operational perspective, on a day-to-day perspective, like keeping the studio clean, having teachers that show up, having front desk staff that helps, having clean towels, having, you know, mind bodies working, like whatever it is, like, and if you're having events on top of that, or trying to market stuff, like it's a lot of work and a lot of time and energy. And unless you've owned a studio, you can't really understand fully, you know, if you're a student or even a teacher, you know, a teacher shows up to teach, but that's pretty much, they're not dealing with all the things behind the scenes, or keeping the lights on and paying the rent and paying the electricity and the mind body and, you know, all that stuff, the internet, right? All those things that add up, that you have to keep going to keep the studio going.
Right. Dealing with the landlord.
Exactly. So, yeah. So, but I am so grateful, and I know you are too.
Absolutely.
So grateful for me being able to have the space, for me to be able to offer the things that I did. And I know you are too, for all the seminars I've done. I mean, I did tons and tons of free seminars there, taught a ton about mindfulness and yoga psychology and meditation, did groups and yoga teacher training. And I'm so grateful to have had that space. We did weekly community classes every Friday. We did a free class. So I gave a lot to the local community, and I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to have the space when I did.
Right. And I guess, and I won't use the word sad, to have been enlightened recently, because, you know, people show up, they come to class, they thank you, they leave, they go about their day, their life. But I put these big, like, sticky notes on the wall and let people write whatever they wanted to write on them. And people have called me and written me like cards and stuff, and really like acknowledged like how yoga and this space has changed their life.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, one lady, she's like in her 60s, and she said she came here when she was 58. And now she is doing things that she never thought she was even capable of doing. And it's all because of what she learned in this space. And so many other things that people have said to me. And I'm like, if I ever doubted that I've made an impact on anybody's life, I no longer doubt that. And I know that I just held the space for them. And that's really all I did. And they did the work. And that's just, what is better than that? Like you can't, that's definitely not a failure. So I'm not going to tear up. I'm not tearing up.
Well, that's a legacy, right? That's part of your legacy. And that's a ripple effect, right? All the work that, like you said, all the space that you held, all the transformations that you held people through, that is invaluable. And that will never go away, whether you have the space or not, right? When you held the space and when you had the space, you think about the hundreds and hundreds of people or even thousands of people that you helped, that walked through your doors, that you interacted with, or one of your teachers interacted with, and then the ripple effect that you created from that. That's definitely not a failure. No, when you look at it like that. Yeah.
I mean, there's just no words.
No,
there's no words.
Now you're going to help more people just in a different way. Yeah. You're going to focus on teens and tweens and some of the other projects that you'll focus on. And you're just going to be more specific right now on how you're going to help. Yeah.
And my thought is, so if I'm able to help these teens and tweens and they have these skills now, that it won't be when they're 58 or 73 or even 25 before they look around and say, what happened these past 10 years or the past 20 years or whatever. They'll be, a friend of mine recently said, it's not about being in control, it's about being in charge. So they can be in charge of how they live their life. So, and that's exciting. Yeah,
it is
empowered.
They're empowered, exactly. Like they know that, they have the choice and they can choose how they treat themselves. They can choose how they talk to themselves. They can, let go of some of those patterns before they even become patterns.
Right.
So, yeah, it's super exciting. I'm excited for you.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for all your guidance and being deep and all that you went through so you could help me go through my stuff.
Of course. Is there anything else that you want to share as far as the mastermind or working with me? Because there's people out there that have never met me before. They don't know me. Any last words that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, just mostly, I really appreciate you being open and honest and authentic, and just be willing to put yourself out there so that others can benefit from your journey, and just welcoming people and reaching out no matter what. So I really appreciate that.
Of course. Well, I'm glad again that I could be here. We're all here in service to be able to support and help others. And there's no better gift than to be able to live our dharma and our purpose in service of others and be that, what I like to call a soul yoga boss, right? That you can be a soul-centered entrepreneur. You can be a yoga boss, and support people in service at the same time. Yes. Right? That you can be that strong and soft. You can be, have strength and surrender, right? And you can be heart-centered and still do really well in business.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. I mean, I feel like if I ran my business any other way, then it wouldn't be successful. It wouldn't have the impact that it has had. So Yeah. Heart-centered, soul-centered. I love that.
Yeah. All right, girl. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm so thankful and grateful. And we will see you on our weekly mastermind. And I'm excited to keep connecting with you and supporting you.
Absolutely. Same here. Thank you, Jenny.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.